Hello, it's Maria here with you today. I just gave you a quick snap of a painting that I'm working on right now and in this video, and I'm going to be continuing it. It's obviously speeded up, and I'll just talk a little bit over the beginning, explain to you exactly what I'm doing, and then as you can see it's in time lapse and it's really speeded up. So just putting down the underpainting there in very, very bright colours. And I used a spray there just a minute ago just to keep the acrylic paint wet. I just wanted that paint to, obviously it was a bit thick in one spot, so I wanted to wet it down a little bit. So it's very handy just to use a spray bottle, any old spray bottle that's empty that you have. There it is. Um, for household sprays, I just, when it was empty, I just filled it up with ordinary water and just spray it here and there to keep the paint wet. And then you can kind of work into the paint for longer. You can use wet on wet style of painting, working into the wet paint, and then you get one colour blending into another colour. Sometimes it's good to do it, other times it's not good, because if you're using wet paint over wet paint and the two colours don't work well together, they can turn into a muddy look, which you can even see here, that blue over the orange has gone into a muddy kind of brown colour. But I'm doing my underpainting, so it doesn't matter for me. So here I'm using a palette knife to scrape into the painting, and I'm just finding this approach. I don't always use it, but by keeping that paint wet underneath using the spray bottle, I can keep it wet and scrape it back. And what's coming through is the white, just the ordinary white of the canvas underneath. And really, while I'm doing this, there isn't a method to it. I'm really being intuitive and just playing. And what I really want is to create just the tangle of the undergrowth, and then I'll stop and I'll start painting into it like I am now and see what emerges out of that undergrowth. So I'm putting on some colours, obviously, some greenery, some blues around the edges, and not really committing myself yet to a final piece. Sometimes I paint in between those lines that I've scratched back, and sometimes I paint over them. If I'm not happy with where I put them, I'll paint over them, and I may come back again and scratch the drawing back into it again. So it's kind of reverse drawing, really. Instead of drawing with a dark object like a pencil or charcoal, or drawing with dark paint, what I'm doing is I'm drawing with the knife. And I love the scratchy effects that I'm getting with the palette knife. And as well, when you're layering colour over that, the whites appear. Now, obviously, this is a different day, and I've started the painting on another day, and it's just changing. As you can see, there is a few changes have happened there. Sometimes I don't film everything, so there's just a little bit of lapse of time where I had been working into the underpainting, changing it around, maybe not totally happy with it. And sometimes I go in another direction, and I actually just discard that piece of video because it's not really relevant. I go off on a tangent, and then I kind of bring the painting back again. So forgive me if I've left a few little bits and pieces out. But from here on, basically it is a continuation. So still, really, I would regard this still as the underpainting, as just the foundation, playing around with colour, playing around with shapes, and not really fully committed to what the subject matter is yet. It was really hot weather when I was doing this, so it was very, very warm, and it took some time to paint this painting. Sorry, there's another jump there, and another change where, so yeah, a few little pieces missing here and there, where I did start putting in the flowers into this painting. So it is beginning now to take a bit more shape. It took a lot of days to work this painting. It probably took me, on and off. Maybe you can see I'm wearing different outfits while I'm painting this. So obviously each day I wore something different. And so I'm just looking at it and realizing it did probably take me, several days to finish it. Now, I wasn't working on it every day, so there was quite a bit of time. And I think I have 3 hours of video footage. But as I said, some of it I wasn't on video because I was resolving things off video. So I have condensed those 3 hours that I had left with down into this 23-minute video. So yeah, changing the colours here, as you can see, I'm adding in blues and added in just the bones of some of those pink flowers and adding some highlights in. So yeah, working with a bit of white paint now, just going over. Obviously, when I'm using the white paint, it's watered down, or maybe I put another colour through it. And I felt there, obviously, that painting needed another flower somewhere low down. So I added that in at the bottom of the painting. And as you can see, those flowers, they're all just separate from one another. They're just like little satellites orbiting around the place. But I do come back and bring them together. And you can see I've started doing that. I've linked some of them together with stems. So I find that that's a very important stage in the painting. I start with just putting in the flower shapes, which eventually those flowers become the subject matter, really, the main subject matter. And as I keep going, I begin to link them together. And that brings a unity to the painting. So I just find that's kind of the way I'm working, is putting the flower shapes in first and then pulling them together at the end. So yeah, I'm adding in detail into the flowers here. Because at this point in the painting, I need to make decisions. Where am I going with it? And make some commitments rather than just playing around with shapes and lines. On and on and on. So I was looking at different types of flowers like poppies and hollyhocks and lavateria, and sometimes I kind of paint the flowers one way and then I change my mind and I go, no, I don't like that idea. I don't like the poppies. I prefer maybe something more like a hollyhock. Here I'm putting in the stems, or the branches, or the connections between those flowers. That's very important because that gives me structure to the painting. So I put in a lot of lines here, and I'm using a thin brush. You don't want to commit yourself to adding in these lines with a thick brush, just putting them in very, very lightly. And I may come back and just put more twigs or leaves or something over those lines and come back again and link them all up together again at a later stage. So it's just kind of very intuitive. Yeah, I seem to be adding in some leaves or grasses that are growing up from the ground in at this point, adding in some greenery. So adding in my darks there to give a bit of depth to the painting. So it's kind of a process of going from light to dark to light, and just building it up. And layering is hugely important in painting. So I think it's just something that I've been learning more and more about over the last few months, is when you add a layer to a painting and you don't like it, you just regard it as a layer and you can paint over that layer, but you can keep parts of it that you like and layer over other parts that you don't like and add new things in. So when you don't like something in a painting, all is not lost. You don't have to destroy the painting. You can just keep going with it and add in new dimensions. Now, at this point, I think the painting looks very, very cluttered. There's way too much stuff going on in it. So again, I'm bringing in some definition, making some decisions, darkening parts of it down, committing myself to where things are in the painting, what I like, what I don't like. A lot of blues coming in. I really love blue. And I often have to, that'll often happen when you're painting. You like one colour and it just comes in too much, and then you have to make a conscious decision about bringing other colours into a painting. A colour that I'm just thinking, I love orange and I love turquoise. I've no problem bringing in the reds and the blues and the greens into a painting, but the oranges and the turquoise, sometimes I find it hard to bring them in, and I love them. So you can see I'm bringing in touches of the orange and the turquoise at the top of the painting. So as I keep going, you'll see the top of the painting, some definition begins to come in there as well, and the flowers deepen in colour. And I have a video on glazing that I've put in, and glazing, you can glaze parts of a painting, and really basically you're just putting a wash of another colour over what you've already done to deepen it, to enhance it. And it really adds a lot of dimension to the painting. And it doesn't destroy what's underneath. You're just layering again by using glazing over what's underneath. So I'm going to let the video run on. I think I've spoken enough about it at this stage. Really what's going on now is really just making decisions and simplifying. I know as I go on, I have to simplify. There, I'm putting the stems back in again. That's really important. I put them in, I painted over them, put them in again, and I probably have too many in, too much foliage, and I have to simplify that again. So it's a process. And there's very few paintings that really go from A to B to C to D. I think that people who paint that way, they probably have done a painting in advance and now they're copying it for viewers, so that they know exactly what they're doing. They've done a very similar painting in advance and now they're redoing it, so they know how they did it step by step and they know their composition is going to work out perfectly. But the creative process is different to that. So what I'm doing here really is I'm showing you the warts, showing you the flaws, showing you where I was making decisions that weren't working out and then changing my mind and painting over things, going back and forth. And it's a process we have to allow ourselves to do, to develop the work and bring it on to another level, and really to find your style, what way you really want to go. So I think this is another day's work. I've started or come back to it again. seem to have put more of the orange into the painting, more turquoise into the top of it. So thank you for watching. It's great to have you with me on the journey. And don't forget to like and subscribe and share. And by subscribing, you'll get to see more videos that I put up. So I'll talk to you again soon. God bless, and bye-bye, and happy painting.